Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses as we continue with Part 18, The Lodge of Wisdom, Book Four Ishmaelites, from Secret Societies of All Ages, Volume 1, by Charles William Heckethorn. Book 4, Ishmaelites. And he will be a wild man, his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. Genesis 16:12. 1. The Lodge of Wisdom, 136. Legend of the Mahdi. The Arabs had rendered themselves masters of Persia, but that country did not willingly bear the foreign yoke. In the schism which, after the death of Mahomet, divided his followers, the Persians took the side of Ali, the husband of Mahomet's daughter Fatima, and the successor of the Prophet. At the end of the 8th century, the two great divisions of Mahometans were already split up into numerous sects. But all of them had one belief in common, namely in the coming of a Messiah, or in their language, a Mahdi or guide. The Gulat, an extravagant sect, had started the doctrine adopted by other sects that the last visible imam or supreme ecclesiastical ruler had been Ismail, reckoning Ali as the first, and those who thought so were called Ishmaelites, whilst others said Askari, the 12th imam, to have been the last visible one, and that he had vanished in a cavern at Hilla, on the banks of the Euphrates, where he would remain invisible till the end of the world, when he would reappear as the Mahdi. On this belief, a bold adventurer founded the plan of freeing Persia and raising himself to power. On this belief, the power of the Mahdi of the present day is founded. 137. Abdallah, the first pontiff. The just-mentioned adventurer's name was Abdallah, the son of Mamun and grandson of the famous Harun er-Rashid. The Ishmaelites were numerous in Persia. He addressed himself to them, telling them that Ismail had indeed been the last imam, but that Muhammad, his son, was a prophet and the founder of a new religion, which would confirm the doctrine of Ismail and secure to its followers the empire of the world. Since the creation, he told his followers, there have been 6 religious periods, each distinguished by the incarnation of a prophet. Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Mahomet were the prophets of those periods. Their mission was to lead men to ascending degrees of religious perfection. The 7 imams of Ali's posterity are the 7 interpreters of the hidden sense of Mahomet's religion, and the forerunners of the most perfect doctrine whose triumph is at hand, the doctrine of Muhammad, the son of Ismail. And as 7 imams succeeded Mahomet, so there always were 7 pontiffs after every previous prophet, and so there will be 7 pontiffs after Muhammad. I am the first of these pontiffs. The pontiff's office is to explain to the initiated that every religion has 2 meanings. The one apparent, intended for the vulgar crowd, the other secret, and only true one, showing that all religions have but one aim. 138. Origin of Qurmatites. Mohammed ben Hussein, surnamed Zaidan, a rich and patriotic Persian, was so captivated by the plan of Abdallah that he made him a present of 2 millions of pieces of gold. But being persecuted by the governor of Susiana, Abdallah made his escape to Syria, where one of his missionaries converted, about 887, a certain Hamdan, famous under the name of Qurmat, who formed the sect known as the Qurmatites, whose power, rapidly developed during 2 centuries, caused the caliphs to tremble on their thrones. 139. Origin of Fatimite dynasty. On Abdallah's death, he was followed in the pontificate by one of his sons, Said ben Hussein ben Abdallah, who asserted that he was the expected Fatimite Messiah, the Mahdi. And when he was informed that numerous partisans were anxiously expecting him in Africa, Said, adopting the name of Ubayd Allah the Mahdi, passed into Africa, overthrew the dynasty of the Aghlabites, ruling in Tripoli and Tunis, and founded the famous dynasty of the Fatimites, AD 909. His great-grandson, Moisli Dinila, drove the caliphs of Baghdad from Egypt and laid the foundations of Cairo, which he made his capital. 140. The Lodge of Cairo. Here he founded the Lodge of Cairo, which might correctly be described as a university. It contained many books and scientific instruments. Science was the professed object, but the real aim was very different. The course of instruction was divided into 9 degrees. The first sought to inspire the pupil with doubts and with confidence in his teacher who was to solve them. For this purpose, captious questions were to show him the absurdity of the literal sense of the Quran. and obscure hints gave him to understand that under that shell was hidden a sweet and nutritious kernel. But the instruction went no further unless the pupil bound himself by dreadful oaths to blind faith in and absolute obedience to his instructor. The second inculcated the recognition of the imams or directors appointed by God as the fountains of every kind of knowledge. The third informed him of the number of those blessed or holy imams, and that number was the mystical 7. The fourth informed him that God had sent into the world 7 legislators, each of whom had 7 coadjutors, and who were called mutes, whilst the legislators were called speakers. The fifth informed him that each of these coadjutors had 12 apostles. The sixth placed before the eyes of the adept, advanced so far, the precepts of the Quran, and he was taught that all the dogmas of religion ought to be subordinate to the rule of philosophy. He was also instructed in the systems of Plato and Aristotle. The 7th degree embraced mystical pantheism. The 8th again brought before him the dogmatic precepts of the Mohammedan law, estimating it at its just value. The 9th degree, finally, as the necessary result of all the former, taught that nothing was to be believed and that everything was lawful. 141. Progress of doctrines. These were the ends aimed at. Human responsibility and dignity were to be annihilated. The throne of the descendants of Fatima was to be surrounded with an army of assassins, a formidable bodyguard. A mysterious militia was to be raised that should spread far and wide the fame and terror of the Caliphate of Cairo and inflict fatal blows on the abhorred rule of Baghdad. The missionaries spread widely, and in Arabia and Syria partisans were won to whom the designs of the order were unknown, but who had with fearful solemnity sworn blind obedience. The nocturnal labors of the Lodge of Cairo lasted a century, and its doctrines, which ended with denying all truth, morality, and justice, necessarily produced something very extraordinary. So terrible a shock to the human conscience led to one of those phenomena that leave a sanguinary and indelible trace on the page of history. It remains to be noticed that Hakem Biamrilla, the founder of the sect of the Druses, was originally a member of the Lodge of Cairo. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.